You're listening to WLPNLP, Chicago 105.5 FM, Lumpin' Radio, Bridgeport. It's a Thursday, February 8th, 2018, and you're listening to Beer Temple Insiders Roundtable.
Remember, this is what we said. To never be heard, seen from again. Remember, this is what we wanted. Remember, this is what we said. To never be heard, seen from again.
Hello, and welcome to the Beer Temple Insiders Roundtable. I'm your host, Chris Quinn, coming to you once again from the Co-Prosperity Sphere in Bridgeport, Chicago, Studio B. Let me just clarify in case you guys out there are wondering, where in the Co-Prosperity Sphere? Where are you? We're in Studio B, again, as always. Used to be Studio A, now we're Studio B. We got downgraded a little bit. We're going to have some... We got kicked out of Studio A for the open mic stand-up night, so we're in Studio B. But I want to thank Lumpin' Radio all the same. I want to thank its fearless leader, Logan Bay, and I want to thank its other fearless leader, Jamie Trecker, who is on the ones and twos, a.k.a. producing the show, because I don't know how to do that. And he's quite good at it, so I wanted to thank Jamie for coming in and doing that. And I wanted to thank all you guys out there for listening. If you're listening live on 105.5 FM, thanks for braving snowpocalypse to not go out and to listen to your radio. Or maybe if you're in the car, you are out braving snowpocalypse, which doesn't look too bad. I want to thank my guests as well for coming out and with the, I guess, potential of us all being, snowed in. So I brought plenty of beer in case that happens. So we'll be able to survive for a little while. For those of you who aren't aware, Chicago is pretty good about not freaking out about snowfall too much. Coming from Philadelphia, it's adorable when I go back there. And, they're going to get 2 inches, and the whole city kind of freaks out a little bit. And we're used to snow there, but it's funny. But here, if they freak out, I guess you really should take note. I'm not overly worried, but probably to my own detriment. Anyway, that's not why you guys tuned in. I just want to thank you for doing so. If you're listening here in Chicago, or you could be listening anywhere if you're using the TuneIn radio app or the Lumpin' Radio app, anything like that, you can listen live. We do record this live, 8 p.m. Central on Thursdays. So, join in. We have the live chat, tlk.io/WLPN is where our live chat is. That's TLK, no A. Sometimes I send it out and it autocorrects to A, and then people say, I couldn't find the chat room, but it's tlk.io/WLPN. And really all you're missing is people making fun of me, so that's fine. And I want to thank everyone who's listening on the via podcast as well. Thank all you guys. Appreciate it much. For those of you listening for the first time, I have a little spiel I go through. Well, here it goes. It's about what this show is. So, the Beer Temple Insiders Roundtable, the goal of the show is to open up a window into how the people making, selling, marketing, and facilitating the beer getting into your glass feel about the topics that are a part of their everyday lives. Many of my greatest beer experiences have been talking about beer while sharing beers with people whose opinions I respect and admire. And it's these experiences that I hope to capture with this show, the Insiders Roundtable. So, with that, I have to mention that all the opinions stated on this show are, just the opinions of me and my guests. They're not associated or affiliated with anything else, such as Lumpin' Radio, et cetera, et cetera. And that's it. I'm going to get into introducing my guests. But before I do that, I have to say some big news happened. Big news, guys. What's up, Ed? I mean, you're just going to jump on anyway. Yeah, you're the first.
We introduced Villanova? Is that the big news you're talking about, Chris?
You know what? What's up with that? Why do you have to bring that up?
You said big news.
I'm not even going to dignify that. I might kick you off the show for bringing that up, but anyway.
Cool. I just thought that was the big news you're talking about. Mm-hmm. Talking about the Eagles?
I'm talking about the Philadelphia Eagles who won the Super Bowl. Super Bowl 52.
That's the sports important thing.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean,
it's so funny with you. I have no idea if you even know what you're talking about with Villanova. I'm assuming you do.
I have to be honest, Chris.
Yeah.
Chris.
Thanks, Jamie told him.
No. The chat room. Chatter. Already trolling you, Chris. I'm
not
live,
cool.
I'm live here on tlk.io/WLPN. Just trolling Chris. And others are trolling back.
Well, very much not appreciated. I'm usually pretty good about getting trolled, but that one cut me to the quick, so to speak. So, man, I was all fired up to talk about something good, and you had to bring me down. Couldn't let me have just a single solitary positive. Let me just say,
let's talk about that game. Incredible game.
We introduced
unbelievable game.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, Bradley, right?
Yeah.
Was going to do his usual thing, his miracle, last minute miracle.
Play that sport
60-yard pinball flipper thing.
Mm-hmm.
And then what happened? Missed it.
This is my first guest, Ed Marzewski.
He missed the ping pong.
Yeah, he missed it.
It's called a hand egg.
He missed the hand egg.
Yes.
But you know what I found really ironic about that game? Mm-hmm. That little trick play Bradley wanted to do where he was supposed to catch the ball and score the touchdown.
Yeah.
What happened to that? Rejected.
Yeah, didn't quite work.
And then what happened later in the game?
It was executed to perfection.
Yeah, these college plays, these college boy plays, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That's how much I love football. It's this kind of like interaction between different levels of play in a professional football stadium with a Michael Jackson hologram. Prince hologram.
Did they do a Prince hologram? I didn't watch the halftime show.
I didn't watch any of the game.
Oh, okay. You didn't?
No.
Okay. I'm shocked.
But yeah, Chris, my name is Ed Marzewski.
And you are the senior-most guest.
Yeah.
We introduce our guests in order of seniority.
Thank you so much. It was really a struggle getting here tonight through all this snow.
Slush.
I mean,
you more
rain.
than anyone really had a lot to
There was a wet spot in the hallway that I had to walk over.
Mm-hmm. Could have slipped.
Could have slept in.
Could have slipped, I mean.
Oh, I could have slipped, yeah.
Yeah.
Obviously, I didn't.
Yeah.
Because I'm still here.
Yeah, because you're still here. But anyway, I was very close to not being here, truth be told, this evening. Not because of the weather, but because I seriously considered heading back to Philadelphia, but I was just there 5 days ago, and I drove back, and I couldn't bring myself to do that trip. I really did want to go to the parade, but be part of the celebration.
I mean, one of my favorite moments with you, Chris, is when one night we were getting a little bit sloshed, and you had a bucket of lard in your car.
Oh, yeah, I remember that.
And you just started greasing up the light bulb outside of the Hop Leaf, I think it was.
I just had a good feeling. I said, something good's going to happen tomorrow, and you're going to thank me.
Yeah.
Because
I'm greasing
these are
bulb.
still going to be here tomorrow, thanks to me doing this right now.
Yeah, and I was like, what are you doing?
It was Crisco. It wasn't quite. It wasn't lard.
Sorry,
it wasn't
Crisco.
lard. It wasn't an animal product.
Vegetable oil.
It was vegetable-based. Yeah.
And I was like, man, you're super weird. And then when I noticed that stuff was happening in Philadelphia, I was like, oh, that's it. Chris just really likes to fry food in Crisco, and the scent of Crisco just gets these really good feelings of being back home. He gets these food memories, and you thought maybe other people wanted to share the food memories you had on what is it, Clark Street, over by
where the Hop Leaf is.
Yeah. So it's nice of you. You're really you're a thoughtful guy.
Yeah. Anyway, for anyone out there who wants to see a truly and that number is 0, but I don't care. For any of you who wants to see an amazing speech, Jason Kelsey today at the parade, all-time amazing speech, had me completely fired up, a little emotional in my desk. Sad I was there, but I am very, very happy that the Eagles won the Super Bowl. I was a little worried at the end of last show when I mentioned that they were going to win, that I was going to jinx them, because most people don't know that I have the power to decide games based on habits that I do or don't do or rituals that I perform. So I was very nervous about that. I had to, say a couple rosaries when I went home. Made it all better. The Eagles won. So I'm very happy about that. I don't care if nobody cares, if that's not why they tuned in. Could not care less. But anyway, my next guest.
This is a great beer show.
Yeah, it is. My next guest has a little bit of a tie to Philadelphia, I believe. Jonathan Fritz, you have some ties to Philly, right?
Yeah, I lived there for a year, and I want to congratulate you on your team winning, Chris. I gotta say,
you don't have to congratulate me, but you can congratulate the.
No, congratulations for not jinxing it, and I want to say we all really love your new face tat.
Yeah,
the Phillies eagle teardrop.
The Phillies eagle
under your left eye.
I thought that was a mole.
No.
Oh, okay.
Nope.
Well, you don't want to go big on your first face tat. I don't think.
Yeah.
No.
Baby steps.
No, that would be kind of garish. I don't know. It would just be whatever. But yep, I wanted to commemorate it, and as soon as it happened, I went out and I went to a tattoo parlor and I got a face tattoo. So my first tattoo actually of anything. So I wanted to keep it kind of conservative. He asked me if I had any tattoos. I said no. So let's just keep it tasteful and conservative. Just a really nice teardrop on my face. So it's a little bit bigger. It takes up, I would say,
it's
all of my
half
cheek
your
and
cheek, yeah, at least.
Yeah. Well, half of it widthwise, all of it lengthwise, down to my jawline. So it's quite big. A little bit. I'm not going to lie. It's a little bigger than I thought it was going to be.
So that's my biggest news. I'm psyched to be back on this show, but I'm even more psyched to see your outrageous face tattoo.
Outrageous. Okay. Well, I was
outrageous in a good way.
Assured that it was going to be very conservative and tasteful, but apparently that's not. Anyway, Jonathan Fritz is one of the founders of Hopewell Brewing. He has 0 face tattoos.
Yet.
That we know of.
You're right. Because apparently...
I see a little cover-up makeup on him right now.
Yeah, no face tattoos, although I'm seriously considering some Hopewell tattoos. But probably not.
Are you really?
No, that seems like it would jinx it. I mean, you know better than anyone.
Yeah.
Do you think it would?
Yes, I do. I personally do think that. True story, my dad once cursed at me as a child for jinxing a Villanova free throw.
That explains a lot about you, Chris.
Yep, right as a very important free throw set. I said, the good news is Jason Lawson's really worked on his free throws, and he's gotten a lot better over the past couple seasons. Then he bricked one, and he turned to me and said, "Nice work, you jinxing a-hole." Absolutely serious and angry. So, so that's kind of the environment I grew up in. So, yeah.
It's great to hear. Yeah, I'm psyched Hopewell's doing well, and I'm psyched to be here on a super serious beer show.
Yeah, exactly. That's what we do. We do super serious stuff. Beer's serious business, and it deserves that. Thank you for coming out. I mean, honestly, thanks everybody except for Ed for coming out. It would have been more of a sacrifice for you not to be able to be here, Ed, than to be here.
It's true. Very true.
It is also. Yeah. It's actually true. But I want to thank Jonathan and my next guest, Nate, for making it out. A couple other guests couldn't. A couple other guests, I'm not going to lie, couldn't pull
Obviously
it off.
not from Chicago.
Yeah.
Right. But Nate Nelson, How are you? What's new, man?
Great. I'm great. Getting married in 6 weeks.
Yeah, man.
Getting amped.
Hey, man, welcome to the global prison of marriage.
Well, thanks.
Thanks. Great to be here.
Great to be here. Thanks.
And you're going out to Joshua Tree, right?
Joshua Tree National Park, yes. And I got my official permit right before the last government shutdown. So,
Oh, nice.
ink dry.
Nice.
Let's hope they sort that out again tonight. Yikes.
Are you bringing any special beers? Any wedding beers you've been saving, or no?
Well, my future wife insisted that I find some Cantillon Fouffon, the apricot lambic.
Oh, yeah. That's her favorite.
I guess so. She's never asked me to find her any other beer, I guess.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, cool. It's a good beer.
Yeah. Pretty good.
And you brought some Cantillon with you today. I think maybe my personal favorite. Lupepe Creek, but the Vinarone.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Yeah. White grapes.
Yeah.
It's grapey.
It's awesome. How's it tasting? Have you had any yet?
Yeah. It's pretty good.
Yeah?
Yeah. Tasty.
Good. Good. I'll have some of that in a moment. And you opened up, you were at our tap room the other day. You opened up Oud Beer Soul
Green walnut.
Green walnut.
Yeah.
Take that, Scratch. You're not the only ones who use green walnut in beers.
I know. It's kind of out of left field for Oud Beersel.
Do you think it was a direct kind of a statement against Scratch, maybe starting a little beef with them? Oud Beersel and Scratch beefing?
Oh, man. I can only presume.
Yeah.
I mean,
I don't know where
they're both
I
so high profile. I mean, how could you not be aware of each other?
Right. Well, it's a shame. I wish we could all get along.
Yeah. Well.
But that was a crazy beer. That was. Did you like it?
Yeah, I liked it a lot. Yeah, I don't know how much of the green walnut came through, but it was just a really nice, deep layered lambic.
Yeah, I appreciate you opening for everyone. Yeah, he opened it up. I mean, not a lot of that beer out there, is there? I mean, I've never seen a bottle of that.
Oh well, you gotta ask the right people, Chris.
Oh, well,
you gotta be connected, Chris.
Opened it up for everybody at the bar,
and then immediately
very
left.
Nice. Yeah, then I immediately left. Where was I going?
A plumbing related emergency at the apartment. That required my attention.
Oh, you immediately left. I thought I immediately left.
I immediately left.
Oh, okay. Well, that sucks. That really sucks.
Take a swig and run.
Yes. Savor it on the jog to your car.
That's right. Mouth swish.
Yes. So why don't we just get right into it and talk about the Eagles? No, let's talk about any beers that we've had recently that we're excited about or are that we've really enjoyed or are looking forward to trying. Anything for you, Ed? Nothing?
Yeah, I mean, I'm sorry, Chris, but lately we've been experimenting a lot with some super...
Mars, you mean?
Yeah, Mars has been experimenting with some very low ABV beverages like kombucha.
Yeah.
And we've repurposed our old system to make some batches of cold brew tea, cold brew coffee, and now... we've designed, or Eric Olson, one of the brewers and production managers there, has launched his line of La Boy sparkling water.
Oh, wait.
La Boy.
I thought, didn't Half Acre already do that? And call it like La Boy?
They called it La Boy? Well,
I don't know.
Maybe Eric was inspired by that. But Eric
I don't know. Maybe they didn't.
Also,
What's it called? What are the ones at Half Acre? Whatever.
I don't know.
Anyway.
Whatever. I know what we're doing.
I can feel the people tuning
Messing
out.
with
It's
shrubs.
like I can feel it
And
happening.
we're making some shrub sodas.
I saw that.
Yeah,
on
that-
the grams.
What are
Man.
shrub sodas?
Man, it's like a apple wine vinegar
Yeah.
concoction with fruit mashed up, and we took the Jungle Boogie rooibos tea, giant sacks of that with the wort in it. It's kind of concentrated tea and wort, and we saved that and blended it in with some of the shrub and some demerara
What is
sugar.
shrub?
People are making these shrubs out of
Yeah, I mean, I'm not.
apple vinegar, and it's
You're not
somewhat
telling. You're not.
Yeah.
What is?
It's like
what
it's
is
a
it?
botanical style of beverage. That
Yeah, have you had
could
like I don't know what they call like a sipping vinegar? It's like kind of like
Yeah.
an acidified syrup, and then you put like sparkling water in it.
you add,
Oh.
it's like the
It's like
syrup.
It's like a fancy DIY soda, Chris.
Yeah. So I've been drinking a lot of great sodas.
Elegant, that's the word that you came up for that?
really good.
I have a word for it, but it's not elegant.
Oh man.
Oh,
No,
yeah?
I'm sure shrubs are here to stay.
Why don't you try it?
No, it's going to be a long-lasting thing.
You're going to be shrubbing one out later. All right?
Potentially.
You will be.
Maybe.
Without a doubt, you'll be shrubbing it out.
I mean, depending on the snow and the snowfall accumulation
might
during
need-
the show, it might be.
you might
it might
need a
be.
shrub.
No, it might. I
Yeah,
might
what
be
happened?
shrubbing out on
Here.
your on your
In my
floor on
Yeah.
your apartment.
Studio A.
Yeah.
Or, I mean, yeah.
So get
Well,
ready.
don't spill the shrub in my apartment.
No,
All right,
never.
thanks.
Anyway, I
But yeah,
look forward to
that's
having
and
some.
of course, I've been low fill zone again.
Yeah.
And there haven't been many. So it's
No?
been looting the cooler. Yeah.
Stealing your own product.
Yeah.
How about you, Mr. Fritz? Anything?
I haven't tried any shrub sodas. Those sound kind of interesting. I'd be into.
Well, they're shrubs, right? Are they shrub sodas or just shrubs?
Shrubs.
Is this
Shrubs.
botanical beer? Is this in that
It's
vein?
non-alcoholic.
Oh, well, it
Yeah.
sounds tasty. I haven't tried any of that.
Yeah.
I've been drinking a lot of my own supply. I've been drinking a lot of Hopewell. In
Is
the
that
last
normal
couple
for you?
months.
I'd hope so.
We do a lot of tasting. We're always tasting everything, and that's generally what I have in my fridge at home.
Yeah.
So we've in the past couple months gotten into finding a good home for all of our barrel projects and all of our specialty things, and where that has landed is 500 milliliter bottles. Which I think is the perfect size of bottle.
Oh, thank
Ed
you.
does too.
Thank you very much.
And so the most recent one that
How about
we
you took credit for the size of
course.
bottle?
Of course I did.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's a good size. It's a good one for sharing. But we just released our first bottle conditioned lager, which is pretty fun. You don't see a lot of those out there. Probably because they don't sell super well, but we did a bottle conditioned cherrywood smoked Vienna lager
Oh,
called
cool.
Front Room, and it is tasting really good. I've been having a lot of fun drinking that beer at home.
That's cool. So here's a question for Ed and Jonathan, as guys who own breweries, or just not even people who own breweries, who work at breweries. I've noticed that, something I hear often is that you guys are mainly just drinking your own stuff, drinking low fills, drinking what was packaged, or just for whatever reason, just to see how stuff's going.
That's not true. I'm just plugging it on this show.
Oh.
No,
okay.
if I'm being honest here, I was just drinking some Jungle Boogie not too long ago, and then usually whenever you're visiting friends at another brewery, they'll set you up with a couple of bottles of something. So,
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I was going to ask, my question was, do you feel that you guys get kind of isolated into your own beer world?
Beer silos?
Yeah. Do you feel like you're beer siloed? I mean, honestly, do you worry about that sometimes? I mean, you also,
Well, I'm always here at this
your
show.
mom has the bar, so.
I'm always here at this show, and you might not know this, Chris, but I do sneak in here and just steal everything from your cooler every Thursday.
I've noticed.
I also,
Not gonna lie.
when this show's over, you might notice me going back to the bathroom with my arms full, taking other people's beer. But yeah, I mean, I have access to every beer that's available in the market, so I drink a lot of different beers.
For real, you do?
Yeah, but I mean, honestly, I game. So when I was gaming more hardcore, it was just easy to just take those
Mars low
broken
fills.
cases and whatever and take them back. And yeah, I mean, that's my thing. Or if there's something on draft, I'll just drink the heck out of that. But we drink a lot of low res beer here at Co-Prosperity Sphere because they promote this punk rock and donut show, and they donate beer to them, and I always get some of those.
I was just at low res literally right before the show. Brought a couple growlers with me.
But I'll try a beer if it seems really interesting to me. I hear about it, I'll search it out. Oftentimes, I've asked some people to pick me up these beers. They're purchased for me. They're sitting on my desk, and they disappear the next day because I didn't take them. So it's not really a safe place.
Thieving SOBs.
Yeah, we certainly make an effort to taste beers outside of what Hopewell's making. Just if we're thinking about doing a new style, or if we're just here, like Ed was saying, if we're hearing about something really cool that's going on, and we tend to drink that as a team. just all together. Best time to drink it's at 11 a.m. right before lunch. So we'll
Get nice and tired, then get a nice belly full of food, and then just coast the afternoon away.
Just drinking beers with people whose opinions I respect and admire, and
talking about beer.
usually buying it at the beer temple, actually.
Oh, okay, good.
But
Good answer.
I like drinking our beer more than most of the other beers out there for some reason. I mean, I'm addicted to the Jungle Boogie. And ever since these crazy kids from New England started peddling their juicy jams.
Are you ever going to make
hazy
something
wares,
other than a New England IPA?
Who, me?
Well, Mars.
No. It's just any IPAs all day.
You know what I like
all
about
night.
it is that there's never the same one twice. It's I like that.
Well,
so
that's true.
If I ever want to get one, if I liked one, I'll just have to see if another different one tastes something like it.
Well, Chris, I have some bad news for you.
What?
We're brewing one of our New Englands again. I'm sorry about that.
It's a shame.
And we're doing another variant of that Midway IPA that
I'm sorry you had to do that.
Yeah.
How do you guys actually decide that? So are you doing, like Chris was saying, different beers every time? How often do you rebrew?
Well, with the New England style of IPA, we've definitely been experimenting a lot. We've made 12 or 13 different ones in the past, 3 months. And we've released 6 or 7 of those in cans, 4 or 5 of those on draft. Last year, when we were doing the Midway IPA, we were using base ingredients and then tweaking it with different hops and tweaking the beer till we thought it was perfect, and then we put that in the can. But we are definitely experimenting a lot with all styles of beer, and it's fun. It's great. It's awesome.
Do you worry that, do you think, it seems like Chris was kind of alluding to it, do you worry that people are only after the new? Like, do you think that your second batch will sell just as well or better?
I've actually lied to you guys. This will be our 3rd release of Overhaze, and
Overhaze.
Yeah, they're all just gone. We've done 10 batches of the Midway IPA by now. I don't know if that reaches the 1 million cans we're supposed to sell. But, really, we just make the beers that we want to try and we're experimenting with. We think they're good, and we'll release them. I mean, we wouldn't release something that we wouldn't want to drink.
Oh, for sure.
Sure.
But do you have interest in growing a specific brand?
About those beers?
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, it really is a cross between do we like the beer and do other people want the beer, and we make the beer that people want.
Yeah.
So I don't know if we have a real formula for it, but I'll check out how much did it sell over the last week or month, and it seems like people want it. Or if I can't find it in the shop or in the store, if it's not available, we make it again. We've undershot our thoughts of what the market wants in terms of Jungle Boogie, so we thought we made a ton of Jungle Boogie, and we ran out of it right away.
That's great.
Yeah, well, it's great, except for me, when I can't even get a Jungle Boogie can to drink when I'm playing my new game, which is what my child's playing, which is The Legend of Zelda.
I've heard that's a very good game. I have to mention that you're listening to WLPN LP Chicago 105.5 FM. And
hundreds of hours of
this
gaming
is, my
of
guest,
Zelda.
Ed Marzuski.
Hundreds
He's talking
of hours of
about
gameplay.
Zelda.
And imagine you can't have your favorite beverage.
Hundreds of hours, totally sober.
Jonathan Fritz.
What is that?
And Nate is just
Chris,
smiling.
What's up? Hey, Chris.
Yeah,
how are you?
He's my other guest. No, I'm doing very well.
Did I answer your question though? I mean, I think we both like to drink all beer available.
Yeah, no, I know. It's not a matter of liking it. I just was curious if you guys, because it's something that I have heard from many people. It's like, I just, all I do is, or I seem to be drinking a lot of my own beer.
Yeah, well, a lot of that is because you're the proxy. All right.
Well done.
I think they say
Jason
that on
Kels
The
over
Simpsons.
here. Yeah.
I think you're allowed to call people that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Fine fellow. So, we are, I'm being told, my balls are being busted just slightly, very politely, that we have to take a break for about, 90 seconds and talk, let you guys know about some of the other shows that are the fine programming here. I think there's a really good video game and football show. They end up talking about beer most of the time, but maybe we'll hear that ad. Yeah, So anyway, listen, and we'll be back shortly with more of the Beer Temple Insiders Roundtable. Welcome back to the Beer Temple Insiders Roundtable. I'm your host, Chris Quinn. I am joined by Ed Marzuski, Nate Nelson, and Jonathan Fritz. And we are all diligently researching our first topic of the day, actual topic, which is an article in The Atlantic about craft beer, and really the business of craft beer, and how it's kind of bucking economic trends overall in America. I thought it was a pretty cool article. Personally, it came out maybe 2 weeks ago or so, maybe 3 weeks ago, I think the title of the article was the headline, I guess, of the article is "Craft Beer is the Strongest, Happiest Economic Story in America," and then the little what is it? Byline's who wrote it, but what it says under in smaller writing. See, we're journalists here. We know what's up. Is corporate Goliaths are taking over the U.S. economy, yet small breweries are thriving. Why? And I thought it was really interesting. I mean, I learned a lot about it, about just how what was going on in I guess just the overall U.S. economy, and how this author seemed to think that a lot of the economic policies just kind of aligned and helped small craft breweries. And you know what? You know who they credited a lot of it to was 3-Tier at first, at least this article. Yeah. So it was cool. I don't know.
Well, what do you mean? Why don't you explain that, Chris?
Yeah. So it said how essentially we are in an age of huge consolidation overall, where big companies are getting bigger and bigger, and they're really many of them are just growing by acquiring other big companies, and kind of choice is maybe there's plenty of choice at the ground level, but it's all controlled by a few companies when it trickles up. And that craft beer is in some ways, very, very different from that. There are 6,000 breweries here. We do represent, 10% or so, which is not a ton, but it's still, it's probably the healthiest segment of beer, and it's kind of, not just bucking the trend in beer, but of just the general economy and how things are going. And the reason, that they credited 3-Tier. 3-Tier is, for those of you out there who don't know, is the federal law that states that, with few exceptions, beer has to go from the supplier, aka the brewer, the manufacturer, to a not disinterested, but an unrelated third party.
A middleman.
Yeah, a middleman, who then can sell it to a retailer. So there has to be kind of a step where the brewery can't be selling it directly to the retailer, or even just opening up their own places themselves, essentially their own bars, their own stores, and stuff like that. And that it was essentially then there were also every state was allowed to kind of tweak the law themselves. This was part of when Prohibition was repealed, a 21st Amendment, if you will. It allowed for the states to kind of put their own little spin on how it was going to go down, and how beer distribution and beer laws and liquor laws overall were going to be handled. And it made things really, and today it's a mess. You go from one state to another, and it really sucks in a lot of ways for consumers often and for everybody involved. But that they were, at least this article was saying, that was kind of the point.
Yeah, the inefficiencies of that
Right. Made it
hard
really
to monopolize
Right.
the entire industry. Although we could argue they've done a great job trying to do that.
Yeah.
Well, maybe we'll argue about that later.
About what?
Well, when you have, at one point Miller, Bud running 90% of the beer market in America, it's pretty close to monopoly. So
Yeah. And it's funny. Yeah, I mean, it is close to monopoly. Well, that's what they were saying too. Is so essentially they, so Big Beer kind of bought and bought and bought and bought and bought, and just reduced the choices that people had.
So it did work for a while until we got to Ronald Reagan. I think they mentioned that too, right?
Yeah, they do. They
Yeah.
do pretty much mention that.
When
yeah.
they deregulated it and made it easier for people like AB InBev or whatever it was called before AB InBev to purchase more and more breweries, where they consolidated ownership over the majority of every single beer people could drink back in the 80s and 90s.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, and essentially then it a little bit when you're dealing with something, and you guys jump in, anyone else who wants to, it kind of backfired a little bit, although they do have 90% of the beer in the U.S. and 50% of the beer worldwide now, so really not backfiring, I suppose, but there was the lack of different flavors out there in beer kind of backfired a little bit.
Chris, you're missing a point on the historical timeline.
Yes.
And that is 1978 when
Yeah.
homebrewing became legalized.
Mm-hmm.
And then all of a sudden you had people that knew a thing or two about making unique styles of beer, and then thinking to themselves, well, why don't I do this on a more professional scale?
Yeah, Sam Adams,
Sierra Nevada.
Sierra Nevada started right after that. Right after Jimmy Carter and his brother made Billy Beer,
Billy Beer, yeah.
Sam Adams appeared.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, that is something that should not be understated. That craft homebrewing was legalized, and I mean, there was, I think, Ken Grossman and or Charlie Papazian have basically said, yeah, I mean, as soon as it was legalized, we opened up homebrew stores. Some of them might have had kind of pseudo illegal homebrew stores before that.
Sure.
And
Farming supplies.
Farming supplies.
Tomato grow lights is what you're saying.
Exactly. Tomato grow lights. Exactly.
I thought that, and I think that a lot of people look at the beer industry with very rose-colored glasses as though it's very unique, and I tend to disagree with that perspective.
Okay.
But I think what was really compelling about this article was just driving home the point that as beer is shrinking, craft is continuing to grow. And that's something that I think is really unique in our industry as compared to craft candle makers and as compared to craft meat producers, is that the category is shrinking now, but the craft segment is continuing to grow. So,
Well, that, and of course, there are a lot more jobs and a lot more people working in the industry because of the 6,000 plus breweries that are out there.
Yeah.
The
So
inefficiency.
Yeah, there's more people.
Yeah.
I mean, that was the amazing thing is there's more people working in beer now than there have been in a long, long time, but overall beer consumption is down.
Yeah.
So there's more people
making less beer.
making less beer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
that is really cool.
That's
I mean,
cool.
Hopewell has 10 employees now, and we do not make nearly enough beer as if Anheuser was using 10 employees. So
Yeah, but you know what? It's a great example of one of the stats that was in that piece. In Illinois, between, I guess, 2008 or today, Illinois breweries are multiplied by 10.
Right.
We employed 10 times more people than we did back in 2007.
Beer employees total, yeah.
Yeah, that's nuts. So you're a good example of that. You guys
Yeah.
were probably not even employed when you started working. You were getting paid, and now you have 10 paid employees. It's amazing.
It's great. Yeah, and Hopewell has always taken a strong stance on paying people properly and making sure that it's a good job to work at a brewery. I do think that that's a part of our industry that needs some work. You hear all the time about people using volunteers, and I just can't say enough how unacceptable I think that is.
Yeah, you mentioned that. Yeah, you've brought that up in the past.
Yeah, it's a huge problem in our industry. So even as we
Can you elaborate on why you don't like that?
It devalues the industry as a whole to not pay skilled workers what they're worth. So partially that. Personally, we think that our beer is worth more than using volunteer labor to do it. And honestly, if you're relying on that, then your business doesn't work. At the end of the day, we are all small businesses, and you wouldn't expect someone to work a cash register at a corner shop for free. So
yeah.
we shouldn't do that either, just because people have it as a hobby.
What if now? I want to get back to this article because there's a lot on it. I remember that there was a crackdown on a bunch of wineries maybe a year or two ago who were using unpaid labor, mainly for bottling and tour guides and stuff like that, who were volunteers, felt a connection to the winery, wanted to help them. Some of them were getting education in wine making, stuff like that, and were really kind of upset that you know the wineries got busted for it. Do you think that there is some allowance for tit for tat? I mean, I'm playing devil's advocate here. I think overall people should be paid. But if there's a guy who wants to learn brewing, you're like, yeah, you can hang out and watch me brew, and I'll talk to you. But after I'm done and I'm sitting on the packaging line, which really sucks, you're going to help me do that. More kind of informed. What do you think about something like that? Is it to you? Can there be kind of a borderline or a gray area, or is it kind of black and white where you tell that person, I'm sorry, no, you can't do it, or you can do it, but then you can't help me do the crap work afterwards?
I mean, if anything, more the latter. But I just don't get why anybody would want to devalue labor, and maybe that's just me being a socialist. But
right.
But labor's important, and I don't think that if you're selling something, you shouldn't be paying your people.
Yeah. Overall, yeah.
If you're giving away the wine for free, then by all means, but somebody's making money on that.
Yeah, I tend to agree. I think. Do you think? I mean, it certainly seems to have gotten better. It seems. No, it seems to me. I mean, it seems like there used to be breweries that were almost entirely free labor, but that was a while ago, and I think that's kind of. I don't see that anymore.
I think our market is maturing. But I'd say, in my experience, probably more than 50% of the breweries in Chicago
are doing it.
What?
Yeah.
Wow.
Free volunteer labor, like not interns. These are people that show up and
Anecdotally, yeah.
Interesting.
Well, it's common in the hospitality industry for people to stage at a job. They call it. You come in and try out to see if you like the culture there, if you got the chops to work there. And some of that could apply to what's going on in the brewing industry. If someone has an interest in brewing and wants to see what it's really like, it's probably good for them to experience the drudgeries of the production line and the drudgeries of cleaning out tanks, et cetera, before they might want to jump headlong into the industry. And many of those people who did those volunteer gigs actually got jobs when the businesses actually got off their feet, were able to hire them. But I can't believe that 50% of Chicago breweries are using that much volunteer labor. That blows my mind.
I wouldn't say 50% volunteer labor, but I'd say 50% of breweries
half dabble.
Dabble.
Yeah.
Oh,
dabble.
yeah, for sure. Well, we definitely have.
Have
without
you?
a doubt. Yeah.
Why?
Well, what we all started off kind of like seeing if we should even can become a brewery. So no one was when we started brewing, no one was really paid to do anything for a second, and then some people got paid hourly, and some people came in to learn or they wanted to work, and then they started getting paid. But over time, if we started off as a volunteer, you probably got a gig working for us somehow.
Which is why people did it.
I think so in that case. But back then, I think we're making 3 barrels at a time. And it took, how many Mars brewers does it take to make 3 barrels of beer? Exactly was the joke. 5
Right.
maybe?
Right.
Pretty intense. But for us, it was also this idea of being beer school, right? When we started this as a whatever, startup or a project or an experiment, we just were all learning how to use the system and make
You guys
beers.
did kind of start out as
Almost like a
dipping your toe in very much.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah. We learned in other people's systems, but we were we volunteers when we
you got a
helped out.
psycho brew kind of.
Were we volunteers when we helped out other brewers make beer, or were we learning something? I mean, from my vantage point is like we were lucky to be able to brew with anybody at that time. Anybody would allow us in their brew house and show us how they brew was a tremendous favor, and I felt like I should have paid them to allow us in there. So it's really difficult to look at the reasons why some breweries might be using volunteer labor, or maybe they're getting paid in beer or cookies or snacks or whatever, or maybe it really is the person really just wants to volunteer to see what it's like, to see if he wants to get in this business. It's tough. And, in terms of like left credentials and being a socialist, I think I'm on the same, plane with you, right?
With Jonathan, yeah.
Yeah, but I think it's important that you have apprentice programs, you have internships, you allow people to stage in order for them to even know if they even want to work with smelly guys like us, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but it's got to be legit. You got to be really offering to teach someone something that they're not going to learn otherwise.
Well, that's true. I mean, I guess there has to be maybe some sort of benefit other than,
Some low fills.
Yeah.
Stealing my low
Or
fills.
like put on these labels. Your job is to put on the labels, and then maybe after a few months you can watch us brew.
Yeah.
How do you cover workman's comp for something like that, though?
I think the insurance companies were not happy about that relationship when it was happening, but it didn't happen very long. I mean, everyone who did that type of work were paid. Everyone's paid to do that type of work. It was more like, let's brew and spend 8 hours making 2.5 barrels of beer, and
Like a homebrew session? More?
it's pretty much that was pretty much that was what was going on when we would have those brew days.
But
Because
it was something that you were potentially exposed
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
for.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think so. You can get hurt.
Yeah,
Get
there's
burnt.
some chemicals. Yeah.
Could slip on the tile floor, hurt your head.
Mm-hmm.
Slips and falls, number
But
one
those
industry.
that's how risky this business is.
We're all bad to the bone.
Oh yeah.
I don't know.
Well, I
if
mean,
you've been in a
where,
brewery.
where did you guys?
I have a face tattoo. Hello.
How did you guys learn to brew?
We started home brewing,
Mm-hmm.
and then Stephen pursued education in brewing and worked his way up from mopping floors.
So he didn't volunteer and work in our brewery to learn how to brew or do a collaboration brew with anyone?
No.
Yeah.
No,
I mean that's. I know that John Laffer at Off Color is pretty adamant about that as well. He did pretty much the exact same thing, but yeah, for himself.
You mean he started mopping floors and then learned how to brew after he left Goose Island?
Yes.
Is that what you mean?
burn.
Yeah, essentially, yeah.
Just kidding, John.
He went to
Went to Siebel.
went to Siebel, then got a. Although
Siebel
he did intern, I think he interned at Metro,
But also,
and then he got a job mopping
but-
floors
yeah,
at Goose.
But Siebel was brewing on the Goose Island system. So was that
were they the Clybourne system?
Yeah, was that like
Okay.
was there a relationship? Did you pay your Siebel fees paid to brew there, or was it a favor from Goose Island to them? I would probably guess that Goose Island was just letting the Siebel dudes use their system to brew on, and there wasn't
Who
a formal
knows?
relationship.
Now
I don't know anything
pure
about that.
speculation.
All I'm
but-
trying to say is that there's a lot of informal
I-
ways of going about this, and that tracking down using labor laws and tracking down volunteer hours versus paid hours is very difficult to do in this business because you don't know whether or not you're benefiting as the volunteer or if the person who's using your labor.
Well,
for
at a
free.
big brewery, it's certainly like, what are you doing here? Get the hell out of here. You're not an employee. What are you doing?
No one is allowed in the brew house unless you work there. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. But, I mean, getting back to what we were saying, talking about in this article a little bit before, 2001, there were 27, almost 28,000 people working in the brewing, working for U.S. breweries, and now it's 70,000. So,
It's
I mean,
pretty intense.
yeah, it's amazing, and it is crazy that it's, and they're making less beer overall. And this article seemed to think that, there are a lot of positive things that happen with, economies of scale, and there certainly benefits to getting bigger, and you can, obviously support, making more, and then as a result, earning more, and then giving your, better benefits to employees and stuff like that. But they were also saying that, perhaps there might also be some that our economy may be obsessed with efficiency, and sometimes it's just as wise to design for inefficiency. And the fact that this is a booming segment that is really making beer, inefficiently, or much more inefficiently than it could be made. I mean, we could be producing just as much beer right now with probably, what was the number? 27,000 employees.
Well, you got to also figure in that when those breweries consolidated, they just eviscerated staff. They would fire tons of people.
Right,
When
that's
these larger
efficiency,
breweries,
though, right?
Efficiency, right? So it's kind of how many people were fired would be great to know. While this growth was happening in the craft segment, would be interesting to figure out. Another thing that was interesting is that those same 3-tier laws. He mentioned something like, if it wasn't for those laws, we'd be drinking in the wine industry. We would be drinking 3 different variations of Gallo, right? And I thought that was ridiculous. But he's like,
Can you explain that? Yeah.
he was basically saying if there wasn't this 3-tier system, the wine industry would have consolidated by one major producer, and they would have made 3 wines: Gallo Red, Gallo White, and Gallo Rosé.
And
Right?
that would be Napa Valley wine.
Yeah, and that would be the wine choices we had. So it's pretty fascinating. But then, of course, it leads into this whole fact that now parts of this 3-tier system are being changed, right?
Yeah.
So now the supplier can self-distribute, right?
Right, self-distribution
And-
for little guys.
For little guys, and then people are...
Big win
It's-
to a lot of people.
Yeah, absolutely. That's one of the most important developments.
But it breaks the 3-tier.
Yeah, which, of course, helped create this entire industry in the first place.
Yeah.
So it's really complex.
Tap rooms break 3-tier. I mean, that's going right from supplier to retail. So they're doing both retail and production, but these are exceptions to the overall rule. I mean, you could have kind of, the big beer could, I guess, suffer death by 1,000 cuts from, 100,000 tap rooms opening up, but I don't see that really happening. So, the bulk of beer being sold is still going to be at grocery stores and stuff like that, which is still very much subject to 3-tier overall. And by necessity, once you get to a certain size, you have to go through
A distributor.
the 3-tier system. Yeah,
And for
distributor equals using 3-tier.
And for
yeah.
perspective, there's 6,000 breweries in the States, right? And there are about 3,000 locations in Chicago where you could purchase beer. One city, right? So there really aren't that many breweries if you look at it. It's like many of these breweries are just brew pubs, small breweries like our own, oversized brew pubs, right? And they're just like bars or places of consumption. So although it looks awesome, it's not that huge it's not that a big slice of a market, and it's not that big of an employer in terms of like the labor.
Yeah,
industry.
70,000 is not that big
No.
for the brewing industry.
No. But maybe the multiplier effects of all the other industries that have benefited from brewing have also grown, which we don't know what those numbers are. BA has a number of a couple million people, I think, involved in the industry. But yeah, I mean, it's pretty complex, but it's what also is the beautiful thing about this piece. The title, Craft Beer is the strangest, happiest economic story in America. corporate Goliaths are taking over the U.S. economy, yet small breweries are thriving, is a beautiful, beautiful piece. I mean, I don't know about you guys, but like what really was important to us, not only to learn how to brew and make great beer, was this notion that the brewery, in fact, was anti-monopolist, anti-corporate consolidation of a specific industry. It represents the ethos of a lefty or progressive into independent politics, independent brewing, independent whatever. And that allure of being part of an industry that was essentially the David versus this Goliath, it was the most alluring, I think, for me.
I could certainly imagine
you understand
that would be the most alluring for you, Ed.
Yeah, I mean, and that the fact that it helps
Ed,
develop a neighborhood and an industry.
I have to mention, as you're talking about that, which is very important, that you're listening to WLPN LP 105.5 FM Chicago. What were you saying, Ed? I'm sorry, developing.
You know, we got a little flex time here for those announcements. Don't listen to Jamie. You can go 1 or 2 minutes before the hour.
Right? Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks.
Well, I guess
Thanks,
what I was trying to say is we saw what Half Acre was doing, right? What Revolution was doing in terms of providing these outposts for good beer in these neighborhoods that back in the day no one really thought about going to as a hip neighborhood. You know, North Center, that stretch of Lincoln up there was had a great stamp store. You could make rubber stamps.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And
let's get more localized.
So this local presence of a brewery helped create people to be interested in hanging out, creates the third place, helps develop the neighborhood economically, maybe to the detriment of some of the denizens who live there.
So what are your thoughts? And let's open it up to everyone. You've been talking
too
quite
much.
a bit. No,
Yeah.
just talking a lot.
Yeah.
I'm not going to say too much.
Yeah.
Subjective. Most, 99% of people would say too much, but some people wouldn't.
99.9.
Yeah. Yeah, that's right. You don't think you're talking too much.
Yeah.
So beer overall is down. It looks like more people are drinking at home and at tap rooms and stuff like that, right? So is
I have
beer
no idea about that.
is beer healthier as a result of craft beer, or is beer's overall health independent of that? I think it would certainly be worse off if it weren't for craft beer, but I don't know.
It's a tough question. I mean, anytime the total category's down, that's a problem, and everybody should be afraid of that. But the fact that craft is continuing to grow, and we can probably think of that as a different category than overall beer, or at least a strong subcategory that'll continue to grow, hopefully.
Like fine wine versus jug wine, kind of like, are they really the same thing?
Yeah. Where Hopewell's the jug wine.
Yeah,
And
no, duh.
I think that what's so strong about beer, and I also found this article really, really nice to read. It was really empowering. But what's so strong about beer, as compared to a lot of other craft industries, is that beer is fundamentally a manufacturing product. I
Right.
mean, it can be very artistic, for sure, but at the end of the day, you are turning a commodity into a commodity.
Yep.
And people are buying beer.
A wet widget.
Yep.
Yeah, like if a brewery goes out of business, what goes up there? Another brewery. You don't hear about breweries going out of business and all of their equipment sitting stagnant. Someone else is going to buy that and make beer with it. So it's a manufacturing industry that kind of grows itself.
Although there are a few breweries sitting vacant right now in Chicagoland. If you need one, just call us.
Are there?
No.
Who's? Oh, yeah.
There's at least one. Was two. But yeah, I tend to. I want to reiterate that because I do think people forget and think that it is this, an artisan product, which it might be, but it is also a manufactured product. It is manufacturing. You are making beer, and you certainly, if you're making it at any kind of scale, it's manufacturing. I mean, if you're, we were joking about beer soul and scratch. I mean, you could make an argument for them that maybe it's perhaps a little less so, but still somewhat. Certainly for beer soul, probably less so. But
Yeah, probably less so for beer soul,
but yeah,
It's important. Well,
it's not bad. It's not a bad thing that it is.
A manufacturing job, creating manufacturing jobs, is huge in a world where manufacturing is being eviscerated as well. by automation, by robots, or being offshore, everything going offshore. So is that romantic, or is that just are we just providing a real world option in this age of like the gig economy? I don't know.
I've asked Bruce Springsteen if manufacturing's romantic. I think so.
Yeah, go ask him. Go ask him.
Bruce.
Go ask Bruce.
You're listening right now. Will you text us and let us know what you think about that?
The chat room. You got to boost the chat
Yeah,
room.
yeah. Get on the chat room, Bruce.
No, I think
That's really important.
the fact that, like you were saying, the neighborhood business aspect of it is what makes it romantic to me. It's
I also think that beer is or alcohol is a social lubricant. It's a social thing. People want to engage with other people more when they are inebriated or feeling the effects of alcohol. And I think that as a result of that, people have really strong emotional ties to beer, which muddy things a lot. It's also something that we're ingesting and tasting, and people have a lot of brings pleasure to them that way. If it tastes good, they enjoy it. So it's a very weird mix of manufactured food. I mean, I guess all manufactured food. I mean, people love Oreos.
Yeah.
I mean, to a much lesser extent, but they feel nostalgic for Oreos. If Oreos went away, even though it's made by Nabisco or whoever it is now, and it's got
there'd be Ori right.
Mondelez International.
Yeah, exactly. Thanks.
Yeah.
But if there were no more Oreos, people would be upset because it's they've got an emotional connection to it.
Yeah, just ask all the Hydrox people.
Right, exactly.
They're
Which is
pissed.
coming back, I think.
But I'm with Ed on this. I think that the emotional connection is different when it's your neighbor making it. Then Coca-Cola is the strongest brand in the world, but you still don't feel that romantic connection to it as if you live in Bridgeport and you walk to the new Mars tap room and Ed because he is the mayor of Bridgeport. Unofficial mayor of Bridgeport.
No, don't say
then
stuff like
it's more important.
The unofficial part? Don't say that.
Just don't. Mayor, Bridgeport, no.
It's more important that your neighbor
Yes.
is the one who's making it. I do
Well,
agree
or
with
just
Ed on that.
anyone in Chicago is your Chicago pride, right? Hometown pride is super important. But what's also the best thing about this article is the fact that they pointed out that there's a monopolization happening in all the industries in the U.S. It's been happening in the beer industry as well. And now, we can feel really great about this piece and feel all happy that, wow, we're recognized as doing something. We're bucking the trend. We're fighting the man. The truth is they're really hammering us. And they're really
I was
threatening.
just going to say.
They're really threatening
I
our
want to ask
existence.
Jonathan and Nate. So you said it was empowering and made you feel good, and I agree. But did you also feel like, or I personally felt that maybe the author was also maybe 12 months behind the curve a little bit, and I was like, man, that is true. It is awesome, but you were like Mad Expansion, Mad Money article time, and things are changing very quickly on the ground. I don't know. What do you think, Nate?
Yeah, it's tough. Yeah, because we all kind of think in the back of our heads like, is this a bubble? Are we seeing too many? Like, are the good times gonna decrease a little bit? I don't know.
What do you think?
I don't know. Chris, I don't know. I struggle with how I feel about the beer industry as a whole because I feel like, I don't know, like I'm kind of on the bleeding edge of beer culture, so I really lose perspective, and I try to think about that a lot. Like, I'm unlike me, most people don't see like, dumb beer memes like every other thing in their Facebook feed or other social media. So
It's a significant hobby and part of your lifestyle on a daily basis. Beer is part of your daily lifestyle, not just sitting at a bar drinking it is what I mean.
Yes,
just like beer culture or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good, bad, or indifferent. It's something that kind
which
of
is not like you
permeates
said,
my life.
not typical.
I'm very atypical.
So you said you try to be aware of that.
Yeah.
And when you try to step back and I mean, what does your more analytical mind think of that?
Oh, I haven't gotten there yet, Chris. I'll tell you
Okay.
when I do.
All right. Well, we're going to take a break. Is there anything else you wanted to say, Jonathan, before we go about this article? Are you a little bit worried that this is maybe?
No, I think it's pretty clear that this article is about 12 months late, for sure.
Okay.
I agree with you on that. I think what's interesting is to think he's right on so many levels of beer being really successful at combating the oligopoly of the beer industry, craft beer combating the oligopoly. And so it made me kind of try to think what other industries could learn from beer or what other industries are doing that well. And I couldn't think of any off the top of my head. Do you guys? Can you think of any other industries?
Spirits, wine,
But that's easy.
I mean,
So other beverage, you think? And
marijuana.
You see that in food a lot, but food tends to get bought a lot quicker.
Oh yeah.
I know my previous job was the largest organic meat producer, and they got bought by Hormel.
Yeah.
Um,
What about marijuana though? Why can't we count that? I mean, they're taking away the share of the business by kind of illegal, probably state-sponsored producers, right?
I'd like to. I mean,
Sessions is outlawing it. I heard.
Yeah,
yeah.
It's not going to happen.
But no, the reason I would like to think of something that is kind of completely outside of the,
Gray economy.
intoxication / alcohol, whatever economy, and really kind of step outside of that. I think food is not necessarily.
I think we've seen a small resurgence in clothing manufacturers.
I was going to say
know
clothing.
We have a
maybe?
couple in Chicago. Stock Manufacturing's doing really good work. And I think that's the only other one I could think of. But there's got to be more. We're all in this beer bubble, though. That's kind of most of what I think about, too.
I mean, they wrote an article about beer for a reason, perhaps.
Yeah.
I mean, it is scary. I can't think of too many others. And my guess would be that people who are not very into craft beer would be like, oh, yeah, there's tons of these little craft breweries popping up all over the place. Where are there tons of little businesses popping up and succeeding and getting bigger and growing and becoming a thing? This isn't like the service. It seems like everything now, every local business now is just service-based. It's like a nail salon or a, whatever, dentist office.
You could argue maybe this tech industries, these startup organizations, creating these disintermediation apps and services, actually ruining everyone's lives with this gig economy approach. But that would
be the other one, like little tech companies.
Tech
that's
companies
the other one.
trying to make us all robots.
And the fundamental difference between tech and beer is that since they're not manufacturing anything, it makes it really easy to sell.
Yeah.
Right?
So,
Yeah.
So tech, the goal of any of those companies is
Yeah.
for Amazon to buy them.
Yeah, right.
Right. Like they want to
That is the goal.
consolidate as
They're
fast
looking
as
for
possible.
3 years and then they sell. Whereas beer, that's not why we are doing it.
Yeah.
Have you ever been to TechCrunch, whatever it's called? They all want.
Crunch.
They all want to. They're all trying to change the world, man. That's not about selling for $500 million.
You're right.
It's about changing the world.
Yeah.
With the next new mobile cupcake delivery app.
By investing $400 of the $500 million I get, I will slowly change the world. Please buy this, please. Your dog needs to have a social network.
What
anyway,
about coffee? Coffee. I thought of
Coffee's
one.
a good one.
Coffee
All right,
is a good
Coffee's
one.
a really good
All right.
one.
Coffee's a great one.
Folgers is probably hemorrhaging money with all of the metrics.
But again, it's
Coffee
consumption.
roasters.
It's food based something has.
So that
Bitcoin.
Bitcoin. There you
All
go.
right.
Let's take a break, guys. Let's listen to some tunes. Maybe we'll think of a few more industries where the little guy is succeeding. We'll listen to music and then come back with more of the Beer Temple Insiders Roundtable. the Beer Temple Insiders Roundtable. I'm your host, Chris Quinn. I'm joined by Ed Marzewski, Nate Nelson, and Jonathan Fritz. We were talking a little bit about the Super Bowl, a little bit about a bunch of stuff, talking about hop contracts. We won't talk about that too much. We're going to save that for another show. But Ed, I'm going to let you and I think Jonathan was interested in this topic as well. We're going to leave the article behind, but we're going to come back to what you thought was really the underlying story of what was going on, and how I said this was kind of a year too late, and how you think things have kind of changed. I would tend to agree. Can you just talk a little bit about? Could either of you talk? Well, you want to start, Jonathan, or who do you want Ed to go? Who do you?
Ed, you should go.
Okay.
Well, I guess
Get on that soapbox,
yeah. Obviously, Chris, when I saw this article being linked as one of your possible topics, I emailed you several times, texted you.
Yep. I'm getting them right now. They're coming in. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, anyways, I think the most important issue that we should think about today is that although there's a lot to be excited about in terms of how this craft beer industry has been opposing this oligarchic, monopolistic force of big beer in our lives. But people aren't aware of that, even though there's some wins here, there's a massive battle and war going on for basically these larger monopoly breweries, mostly AB InBev, trying to dominate the entire industry. You saw that in the recent purchases of many regional breweries around the country, around the world, including Chicago's very own Goose Island. And what's been happening since they've acquired these small regional craft breweries,
which is also what every other
industry does.
Mm-hmm. I mean, they're trying to acquire, growth or acquisition, man.
No, absolutely, as we call the Borg, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. But what's happened is, of course, people don't know that the distribution channels are also most of the major distribution channels. Although there is a 3-tier system. I have no idea how this is possible, but AB InBev has interests in most of the larger distributor networks throughout the country.
Say most, but many.
Yeah. And they also basically wage war on us through pricing, through offering discounts on beverages, through offering marketing money to venues.
And you had a tweet from Josh Noel that you thought was poignant. I think you mentioned.
Yeah, exactly. Josh mentioned something about the AB InBevs of the world not only control most of the beer that you drink, but they'll start controlling most of the beer journalism about the beer that you drink. They control the rating. They control rating apps and websites that you would use to rate your beer. In fact, Rate Beer is the name of them. They also own large parts of different websites or media entities which they fund.
Home brewing.
They also own one of the largest home brewing supply corporations. So it's not only they also are starting a company specifically to create the biggest beer culture events in the country. So they want to own every facet of what's going on in beer. Not only the macro scale, but also on the micro scale.
Well, they realize it's a cultural thing, and they want to own every facet of the culture,
right,
so they can kind of direct you back into
their products.
So,
for example,
which is easier said than done.
Well, in publications and blogs, you'll see AB InBev funded publications writing about the hip, cool, super small, awesome brewery that does, 6-tuple dry hopped gruits. And then we'll talk about their favorite beers are these new beers. And, of course, one of the brands that they own will be featured on that website. Or one of the brands will be featured with a celebrity rock and roll hip-hop star who loves to drink XYZ beer because it's his favorite craft lager or whatever. So you have a culture in which there's not a lot of transparency in this kind of beer media blog universe.
Well, here's something that I saw mentioned on Twitter, and I had to Google it to bring it up. It's perfect. So October had an essay that came out just a month ago, January 4th, 2018.
And what is October?
October is a beer website, journalism website, self-proclaimed journalism website, with funding from ZX Ventures, which is a venture capital arm of AB InBev, and they're trying to definitely play up the events. Also as Condé Nast, Pitchfork, stuff like that. But anyway, and it's just. Anyway, they kind of have these really bad optics at times. They say that they're, separated, or there's people who've worked for them said, I've never been pressured, to write a certain thing. But then you see, a month. That's what the conversation was on Twitter. And there were a couple journalists saying, I've never been pressured, to write one way or another. I've never, which I totally agree.
Can we back up here? Basically what we're saying is that when you read one of these blogs or websites, you don't know if an article is written with pressure from the advertisers.
I'm getting there.
Yeah.
I'm getting there. So then another journalist chimed in, and then I think it might have been, Worst Beer Blog again.
Yeah.
This is like the third time he's been called out on the show in like five episodes. But he was like, yeah, or like this. And the article was, Beerland is good, and Meg Gill is perfect for it. It was the name of the essay. And for those out there who don't know, so Beerland is a television show on Vice. Vice is I don't know who owns Vice, but anyway, Beerland is Meg Gill, who is one of the founders of Golden Road, who was bought out by InBev.
Yeah.
So it's her television show about finding small, quirky
homebrewers, nano breweries.
Yeah, it's very similar to, like I've mentioned on Wayne's World, the Wayne's World quote from when Garth finds Rob Lowe's notebook. It's like, find small local TV access show and exploit them. Hate to be those people.
Side note, you can see Hopewell in Wayne's World.
Oh.
In the movie Wayne's World. We'll get back to that. Next topic.
Okay, awesome. So anyway, But the thing is, she goes to finds these really cool, quirky places. Somebody in Brooklyn, I've heard recently, of course, who uses a magic log that he found in Central Park to inoculate all his beer. But anyway, then they go and brew a large scale batch or something like that, or that's the goal, is to brew at Golden Road. So it's just really weird when you have talking about how this show is awesome, the owner is great for it. By the way, we're all part of the same, or we have connections, financial connections, and it's
the same corporation. Yeah,
it's just.
Yeah, but the biggest problem, Chris, of course, is that nobody notices this and nobody knows this. Nobody knows that a show like this, Beerland, on Vice, is actually constructed with a partner in mind. Many of the shows on Vice, like these food shows or whatever, are designed to find a major corporate sponsor who pays for everything, the production, editing, etc. of the show. Even their web-based shows, their web-based things, like the Street series they did. They went to 5 or 6 different cities. I was on a Vice show, Vice Streets, where they talked about Chicago, and it was very clear that it was paid for by Google, because the opening shot is of a giant satellite view of the globe going down to the satellite view of the U.S., to the satellite view of Illinois, to Chicago, to the streets of where they're going to appear. So these shows are actually just giant advertorials.
You know that it was actually?
Absolutely.
Okay.
I was told they were sponsored. It was only done because Google paid for it. And that's how I'm sure this show was done too. I would guess that AB InBev or whatever XYZ Ventures or ZX Ventures actually had to pay for that show.
You have to ask your buddy. I mean, your buddy would know.
Yeah.
What do you?
So the key thing was transparency.
Jonathan.
Transparency is the issue.
Yes, transparency is the issue, but I think, Jonathan, you were also mentioning how you think that I don't want to put words in your mouth. I don't want to put off air. I want you to say your own thing on air. You seem to think that what Ed was talking about was worthwhile talking about as well. Maybe I'll just leave it at that. or did he say everything? Or I don't want to put words in your mouth.
I think Ed said it all.
Okay.
I'm kind of lost where you're leading me. I don't know.
All right, yeah. I don't want to say anything that you mentioned to me. I don't want to reiterate on mic if you said something to me off mic.
I think what I said off mic
was
cool. Was go Eagles. No,
Yep.
and feel free to put words in my mouth, but I think that the next big lever that's going to be pulled in craft beer is pricing. I think that that's going to be pulled not only by Anheuser-Busch, which they're already doing, and you see it out in bars. Like anytime you see,
I think you were saying we're going to get to where you're going soon, but you were saying distributorships and how they're kind of breaking down systematically this the 3-tier thing is problematic. And you were saying that, and then never mind, you're ahead of me, and you went right into pricing.
I
Sorry.
might be. My main concern, what I lose sleep over at night is pricing, and that's not just from the massive Borg, but it's from the large regional craft breweries as well.
And this is kind of, again, getting back to what Nick Nuns of True Brewing in Denver was mentioning. He called it, in his words, it was a race to the bottom, and he really thought that some of these regional breweries trying to pressure maybe the smaller guys on pricing was a dangerous thing because
it's bad for the category. Yeah,
it's bad for the category, and the biggest guy is going to win.
They're going to win, and it's because they're all overbuilt. Because 5 years ago, when you're writing a business plan to be a brewery in the U.S., you are expecting a certain amount of growth. And our business plan has changed. We're a small enough business that the business plan is always fluid, and what works right now is different than what worked 5 years ago. 5 years ago, in our second expansion, we would be looking at adding a ton of more tank space. Now we're probably looking at offering more a canning line so that we can offer more varieties of our beer and have it in more spots and expand our business that way. But
let me ask you a question as an aside. I mean, and you are not being held to this in any way, shape, or form, but like if you were to expand now in today's climate and do a big expansion, do you think you guys would expand to ever another tap room, or would you expand to, a bigger production facility?
Well, in Illinois, we are legally allowed to have retail space at 3 different locations, all of those being also production locations. If we open another location, we're absolutely going to have retail there. It would be stupid not to. Any brewery
retail meaning a bar, just for people out
retail
there.
Meaning a bar, at least a bottle shop, but why wouldn't you have a bar? I don't get any brewery that doesn't have a bar because it's easy enough to open up.
That's not true.
The city of Chicago
you should open it up, is what you're saying.
You should work to open it up.
That's the primary thing that should open up.
And we got held up a couple months too, Ed. I'm actually really interested in hearing what's going on, but
But
this was an aside.
But you would open up another retail location for sure.
Absolutely,
and not a production facility to make like 20,000, 30,000 barrels.
No, I think in our model it would be nice to have a smaller 5-barrel system, and then for more testing, like Ed's talking about, and also a bigger system, and who knows what order those happen in. Yeah. But every single one of those is going to have a bar.
Yeah, but and totally. And I wanted to get back to what we were talking about before, and we only have a few more minutes. I want to get to some letters. We don't have much time at all. But you were saying that there were some the big you both were, Ed and you were saying how they own the kind of the pathways to retail because they influence or have direct ownership in distributorships, the big guys, and how there is kind of they're pressuring you from a cultural aspect, but also from much more importantly, I would say, from a access to retail. And, they can go to you and say, listen, we can give you 15 breweries, even though it's all kind of, Gallo Red, Gallo White, Gallo Rosé. That's an overstatement. These are unique and different breweries, but it all kind of trickles down to the same ownership. And you were saying that even these small guys, though, the good thing is, though, and something that's touted when they sell out, when people sell to AB InBev, is the fact that you have all this capital now behind you, and you can go and make more beer and go to new markets. You can also do things like sell half barrels for $85, which is what you were saying, Jonathan. I don't want to say what brewery it was. I mean, you're free to say that, but a half barrel being a full size keg for $85 is
pretty good price.
That's a pretty good price. That's a Bud. That's like maybe even less than a
PBR pricing.
Like a PBR price.
Yeah, and that's the thing. It's
for what would be considered not just a craft brewery, but kind of like a smaller niche craft brewery, right? Mm-hmm. But they're selling their stuff for $85 a half barrel. Now you tell me that a bar owner isn't going to think twice about the fact that this is a small niche craft brewery that is kind of cool, has some rep, or maybe pushes some of the buttons that people are interested in when they think craft beer. So you can sell it for craft beer prices, or even maybe $1 or $2 less, and make so much money.
And for reference, that's half price from a craft brewery.
Right.
In general, just for reference of people not knowing how much a half barrel might cost, like that, it's about half price. So
half price, and if you're going to a little guy, it's less than half price. Really, well, no, I'm not. Some guys, some guys are more than that. So, in other words, the retailer in this instance, the bar owner, can make a lot of money. If this would normally be priced at the regular margin as a $2 draft or a $3 draft, maybe now it can be a $4 or $5 draft, still be $1 or $2 less than everybody else, and they make all that extra money themselves. And the velocity, because of the price, just kind of compounds everything. And, that is scale of economy at work. I mean, that is, that's the market deciding in a way, but it's also disingenuous, and I'd say a little bit treacherous, because I would imagine that some of the people drinking it are drinking it under, a false idea of what it is they're drinking, which matters to people, because we just said that there's this emotional tie.
You're the person here who's buying beer, so why wouldn't you buy that, or do you buy that?
I would say I don't have any hard and fast rules, both on the bottle shop and the tap room. But, I'm definitely one who I think it was mentioned last week, the pornography thing. I know it when I see it. And it's a little bit like that, too. Like, that's weird. If a true craft brewery does that, I tend to get a little nervous for them. Obviously, with an InBev-owned brewery, it's not the same. That, I think, is definitely predatory, which you're allowed to be predatory. That's not...
It's a jungle out there.
Yeah, it's a jungle out there, But how do I react to that one? Probably wouldn't bring it in, but might if it was the greatest beer I'd ever had. Might bring it in.
Yeah, why wouldn't you?
Yeah, it was great, but why wouldn't I? Because there are other guys. Because it's hurting
the category.
It's such a complicated thing. Yeah, so I wouldn't, just because it's equally good, and there's a lot of things at play there. I don't know. What do you think, Nate? I mean, if there's a beer there that's from an AB InBev thing, let's say, and it's $3 for a pint of it, and it's a it wasn't Wicked Weed. I'll say right now, who Jonathan was talking about wasn't Wicked Weed, but let's just imagine
it wasn't a Borgmeister.
It was Pernicious, which has won a gold medal at one of the big GABF or World Beer Cup, and it was $3 a pint. Let's just say.
Well, and I would imagine
you be excited?
since we're saying that they own the media and you don't know who owns them, you walk into a bar, there's a $3 IPA on, and then there's a $7 IPA that was made in your neighborhood. What would make you go for the $7 IPA?
And that's a huge ask.
Yeah,
It is
that's
a huge
big ask.
Yeah. No, absolutely. I don't know. I mean, to be honest, again, like kind of back to the point where like I'm not the average person. Like I am not. I realize that I'm not particularly.
Well, answer for yourself.
I don't want to say price conscious, but it's not a big factor. Like I'm not going to choose what I drink next because is it a $3 pint or a $7 pint? Like what speaks to me? I don't know. I want to be excited. Mm-hmm. I want to have something that I don't know has an element of culture to it. You know, I want to. I mean, if it's not local, I want to taste something very interesting from a place that I'm not from.
Yeah. And how important is local to you personally?
You know, to be honest, like I'm fairly promiscuous. If I look in my fridge now, coincidentally, it's a lot of local stuff.
Yeah.
Just because, you know,
I think
it's
local
fresher.
has, exactly. Local has huge advantages, but it doesn't. I'm not. I do like local, but I'm not devout to local. And in fact, I think sometimes you can be over devout to local. To use the term that Jonathan said, you know, to the detriment of the category.
Yeah, forgiving sins for the sake of supporting local business.
Yeah,
sure.
Which I think overall does not help people,
and it doesn't help the business.
Yeah,
in the long run.
So let's. I want to get at least one letter in.
Let's do the letter.
Letters.
So this letter's from Nate, not you, Nate.
Different Nate. Completely separate Nate.
He writes, "Hello, Chris and esteemed guests. Question: I know that each state has different laws pertaining to selling individual bottles out of a pack, but how do brewers and whomever else feel about how these are sold? Backstory: over the holidays, I visited my in-laws in southern Indiana. While there, I always hit the one liquor store in their small town. They have a small craft selection, including some. They always have some Three Fords, which I cannot get in Minnesota, where I now live. This year, when buying a 6-pack, I was shown one bottle of Zombie Dust.
Dust or bust.
Yeah, they were selling the one bottle for $8. Surprisingly, the date was only 12 days old. Question 2, and they are related. Who should be making sure beer is fresh at a retailer, or maybe who really cares, the retailer, the distributor, the brewer? Second backstory: driving back from Chicago, I stopped at what used to be my local liquor store, where I picked up a 6-pack of Dust, but it was 20 days old. Why is the more local beer seemingly can't stay on the shelves older than the beer that is far away and not even stored cold at the retailer? Thanks for the show. Keeps me connected to Chicago, although I could not find any of the Jungle Boogie during my quick pit stop on the north side. Nate.
Here's $1, Nate.
Yes.
Man. Well, first of all, 20 days
20's
from
a
package. How
good
dare they?
date.
Yeah.
How dare they? It's trash.
If you can taste the
Throw it
difference
away.
in a 20-day and a 12-day beer, then you're a better taster than every single person
Dust-
at Hopewell.
No. So
Dust Brothers better chime
No.
in.
Talk about that. Don't just say
no,
that. Say that. Educate.
I
Educate.
think
Thank you for
there's
the
been
letter,
a
Nate. Yeah.
huge emphasis on fresh, and part of that is a little overzealous. I think a 20-day IPA is right in range for when I think it's tasting really good.
Oh, absolutely. And this
Some
whole
of them
kind
do get better a little bit.
Yeah, and like
in the package. Yeah.
the fresh chase, I think it's a mixed bag because on one hand, it's good that that customers are becoming more educated on freshness. Recognizing that the IPA that they're drinking is 75
A living product.
living
yeah.
product. It's like 75 days old. It's not a bad beer. It's just older than when maybe you would have liked to drink it, but 20 days.
And I think I have probably a little bit more of a vendetta against this sort of thing because my first job was working for a board company selling cookies and crackers, and I would be stocking the shelf. And I remember someone walking up to the shelf and pulling everything off when I had just completely ordered my codes properly onto the shelf with the new codes in back, and this woman pulled everything off the shelf and grabbed my newest code.
Take the back
and I was
box.
so mad. This is not very related. I actually
I do that with a few things. I do that with tortillas and
dust.
dairy and dust and beer.
but
Both dust and
but
beer.
fresh. That said, freshness is very important. And to answer the second question, I think it's everyone's responsibility, or everybody should care about it. From producer, they should really care about it by giving everybody the freshest product possible. Retailers should care about it, but really probably only the Beer Temple cares about it, if we're being honest. And then distributors, I think, are the ones who actually should be doing something about it.
It takes a village to sell a beer.
Yeah. The only actionable step in that chain, I feel like, is distributors. And if it's a self-distributing brewery like me or Ed,
It's
then
our
a supplier,
responsibility.
Then it's our
Now,
responsibility.
I know that there are people out there. I know that there are people listening, both industry and non-industry, who are saying, no, there is a big difference between 12 days and 20 days, or at least 7 days and 20 days. And somebody on here, I don't know if it was on air or off air, in the past they had a theory that this was kind of an unofficial, very unofficial, guerrilla marketing thing. This uber fresh 1 week, 2 week thing perpetrated, and I'm using a lot of formal language, by breweries who have terrible packaging and whose beers go old very, very quickly. And who for them, you do need to drink it in 7 days. So, because their beers are not going to last 90 days like
Did it start with an
another beer.
F and end with an H?
I don't
brewery,
know.
This brewery that demanded you drink their beer in 7 days or drink it in Florida?
Oh, no, I don't even know what you're talking about. But I'm sure somebody can figure it out. So it's I do think there might be something true to that. Is that things that get lost is some of the bigger guys have better packaging equipment where their beer tastes better at an older age. Also, how you store the beer. It's something I haven't done yet at the store, which I need to do, is have the same beer be kept cold the entire time and at room temp the entire time, and then taste them side by side, or even have a fresher version that had been at room temp, because that matters a lot. But also, your packaging matters quite a bit.
I got to tell you, I know Steve Mastny loves the Lump and Boogie we did, right?
Yeah.
And I would try these various versions of Lump and Boogie in different conditions. One, sitting in the front window of a store, like a giant stack sitting there for 6 months.
Yeah.
What does that taste like? To someone hoarded it and put it in their office. And it's wildly different taste from the same beer. And it's really funny that one of Logan Bay's favorite beers is 6 month to 1 year old Lumpen IPA. It's just
there you are.
It's crazy. What beer, how you store it, what the temperature is, all these different factors lead into whether or not the beer is good 1 week, 2 weeks, 1 month, whatever later.
Yeah, and to get to another part of the letter, I would be pretty surprised if that brewery was sending older code beer closer to home. 12 to 20 days is week and a half. Likely the store just wasn't selling through. That's probably...
The store wasn't selling through, or there was just something where it was on allocation. It came in the day after they had ordered last time. If they normally order on a Tuesday, it showed up that day, so it wasn't available to order that day. Yeah. So it was a week later. You're talking about a week now. Weird stuff like that happens. They order once a week and yada yada.
I'm all for exploring pricing, but I'll go out on a limb and say that $8 for a single bottle zombie dust is entirely
A-okay
too much
with
money.
you. Oh.
Wow. I'd pay $80 for a single bottle of zombie dust if it was coated in cocaine.
Okay. There you are.
Yeah, wrap that in a $100 bill and
There you go.
On that note, I think
Yeah.
I should thank Nate for writing that letter. If you want to write a letter, it's info@craftbeertemple.com, or you can send it to the Co-Prosperity Sphere. Don't have time to mention the address, but we'll do it next time. And I wanted to thank my guests. It's been kind of a rambling show, but I had fun. And my guest being Ed Marzewski. Thank you, Ed. And Nate Nelson. And congrats to Nate. Next time I see you, or on the show, certainly, I would imagine you're going to
be married.
be married. And Jonathan Fritz, who may be married the next time I see him. You never know. Oh, you already are married.
I am
Never
right
mind.
now.
Knock on wood.
we'll see.
So he may be married.
I hope so. My wife told me not to go out in the snowstorm, but we'll see.
May be married.
It's not really that stormy over here.
Looks fine. People are upset. Anyway.
I'll tell you one thing. The
yeah.
Prius can handle it. Now that's a car.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Four-wheel.
Thanks, guys. We had a lot of fun. Shoot me a letter. Let me know what you think. I will see you next week with more of the Beer Temple Insiders Roundtable. So long.
Remember this is what we wanted. Remember this is what we said. To never be heard or seen from again. Remember this is what we wanted. Remember this is what we said. To never be heard or seen from again. Remember this is what we wanted. Remember this is what we said. To never be heard or seen from again.